One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that because somebody is a part of spirituality or is spiritually guided, that they are soft or a pushover, or they just kind of go along with anything. And in the dating world, it is a weird dynamic because whenever someone asks me what I believe, the moment I say something about being spiritually led or practicing spirituality or being a spiritual healer or giving spiritual guided messages, like any of that stuff. Anytime I say anything about being spirituality, they automatically believe that I'm super extra nice. Now, I'm nice. I'm a nice person, right? But I'm also a Sagittarius. So my personality is in extremes. I can be extremely nice and I can be extremely mean. I choose not to be mean. I have encountered a lot of different mean people. It doesn't mean that I don't know how to be mean. It means that I choose not to be. So spirituality makes you aware of the choices that you make and also helps you to understand the weight or the bearing of the choices that you make. Someone who practices or has a spiritual practice other than organized religion does not mean that that person is a pushover or that they're nice or that they have to be kind. In spirituality, you have the freedom to make the choice. And from making that choice, it is understood that when you make a choice, you are inviting in what it is that you're putting out. So if you don't want to be open to those types of things or invite more of that towards you, because you can have somebody be mean towards you and you never did anything. But how that situation is handled reflects what you would like to invite. It reminds you of who you're not anymore and what you're inviting in. So I'll give you an example. A few years ago, and I have friends who can verify this. A few years ago, I woke up and our spirit was teaching me the lesson of things like how my day starts is the energy that my day will carry. Okay. So I woke up listening to Bone Crusher and Lil Jon Eastside Boy, but Bone Crusher specifically. And the song that I was listening to, I was never scared. Like I was so in it that morning. I was hyped. I was real pumped up, right? Going through my whole day. My day's going well. And I'm in the car with my youngest son, who is a grown adult. We was going somewhere. He was like, Mom, he's like, can you stop by Wendy's? I was like, sure. So I stopped over at Wendy's and I was in a good mood, but I also was holding the energy of there's nothing that can hold me. But it was from a very toxic place. It was from the place of you can try it if you want to, but I got something in return for you. I could just feel it in my being. Like I was not playing at all. Okay. It turned into a situation that escalated so fast. And at different points, I could have changed the narrative of that situation. I pull up. I like to be thorough, so I give the whole entire order. The person says, after I gave them the whole order, including the drink, the person said, and what's your drink? And I told them what the drink was. And the person, I said, well, I gave you the drink. I said the drink was such and such. And the person was like, but I didn't hear you. And I said, oh, okay. I said, is your manager there? Well, I'm the manager. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, this is horrible customer service because I'm just trying to clarify that I had already given the drink. And then it just from there. So as I was feeding into the situation was escalating. It escalated to the point where the person was like, after she said, after, she had got smart with me, I said, who are you talking to? She said, I'm talking to you. I said, the fuck you not? I was like, I don't know what kind of manager you are, but you're not going to talk to me like I'm not a person, nor are you going to disrespect me. Here now, whenever I want y'all to know that whenever I am tested, in the past, I've always been tested in front of people that I have mentored in some way. Every single time. It is, Spirit just orchestrates this like so fine, right? So it turned into a situation where the girl was like, I'm going to call the police. I said, I ain't got no record. Call them. And then my stubbornness kicked in, because then I wasn't going to move. So I was sitting in front of the speaker where people needed to order, because her and I had words that were not anything that I liked. Okay. And so, long story short, she came out, told the people in the line, she's not moving her car. And the crazy thing is, the speaker was so loud that the people behind me heard. Like 3 cars back, the people had all heard this conversation and was like, what? And so she came behind and was speaking to the cars. She ain't moving her car, so y'all not going to be able to order. And the inside of the building was locked, right? So this is what Spirit used. And because I love people. And Spirit noticed about me, right? Spirit said, the man said, hey, ma'am, I know I ain't never heard a manager talk to nobody the way she talked to you. He said, and I'm going to apologize for her because obviously she can't do it herself. He said, but ma'am, I just got off of work and I'm hungry. And when I heard him say that, I said, Othella, you know better. You know better. You know better. It's not that everything that she said was wrong, but everything you said wasn't right. You know better. And I turned around and I looked at that guy and I said, okay, I hear you. I said, Spirit, I hear you. And so now here's the crazy thing, right? I'm pulling away. And my shadow self, my ego and my shadow self was like, pull up to the window. I pulled up to the window. And I said, now, at the time, I had crystals on each one of my locks. Every lock had a crystal on it. In the city I was in, I was known as the lady with the crystal in her hair. So when you are being taught something, when something is happening, most of the time, it is a person that stands out. So not only was I a person who stood out in a crowd, and I still am, because my personality speaks for itself. I pulled up to the window. I turned around and looked dead in the eyes, and I said, I just wanted to see the face, you to see the face that you was talking to. I was like, because if I was, and then it became a race thing. I said, because if I was a different culture, you wouldn't have been talking to me like that. And the guy who was the same, like a black guy like me, he was like, that's not the case. I said, it is. I said, because if you thought I had money and you thought that I would benefit y'all, you would have treated me like I was going to give you something. I said, when all I simply was doing was not wanting to be talked to like I was crazy. And Spirit said, shut up. I sat there quietly for a moment. I couldn't hear nothing they were saying, and I pulled off. Now, thinking that this was over, right? It was still festering in my spirit. So I went to another Wendy's, told them about the situation that happened, still wanted to order my son's food, and Spirit said, stop this. You need to stop it right now, because you are the example. You are the blueprint. And I never went back to apologize, because the person who was at the actual manager was afraid of the employees. She wasn't even a person that was talking to me. That was the assistant manager. And then I heard that other people had these situations before. I had no idea. So I literally started off my day in a state of mind at war. And Spirit allowed me to see how my energy could influence other people's energy, and how much control I had over the narrative for myself, and for others. So I learned a very valuable lesson. I still listen to my music, but I learn.